Eric, thanks a lot for coming, being our guest here. So Mapbox is, something very interesting, and everybody here uses maps on a daily basis, whether it's for travel or finding something. So I think this is a really interesting concept. Just tell us a little bit about what Mapbox is and kind of what kind of customers you have.
Yeah, no, and thank you. As Anthony mentioned, I started actually in Washington, D.C. At the time, it was like 2008, 2009, and we were helping a lot of development agencies try to do more with data. So working with the UN, working with the World Bank, State Department, from election monitoring to where to put clinics, mapping malaria. And a lot of that data was geo. And so bit by bit, we had to get good at making maps. So we built these tools like Photoshop for maps where you could drag in your data and design custom layers so you could actually see what's going on the ground. The problem was there wasn't anything to put these maps on top of. There were no, where we were working, there were no roads or anything. Like my first time into Kabul in 2009, there's like Ring Road, Jalalabad Road, there's no city, there's no houses. It's not like AdSense or in-car nav is going to motivate anybody to go map these areas. So we started working with open data communities and started making our own map. The timing, we got lucky. As we rolled out our own map, Google started charging for maps. And so our first customer was Foursquare.
Great.
4.5 years ago. And bit by bit, we've been solely focused on making it really easy for mobile devs to put not just a map in, but to then customize and do other stuff with it. So.
And what was the backstory that you decided to start this business, going into the mapping space where obviously you have big competition with Google and now Apple and others?
Yeah, no, it was not like I woke up one morning and was like, oh, you know what? I want to compete with Google Maps. It was we needed better tools for ourselves. So we bootstrapped everything. We had a consulting company where we would get paid by UN World Bank, right? And as we needed better tools, we built them. We made better margins on our consulting work and made more money to invest more in the tools. So we didn't take any outside investment until not even 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. So we'd grown the team, we were profitable, we're 30 plus people. And at that point you start seeing this like real fit. At that point we had 250 ping platforms. At that, it's USA Today, Evernote's already on, it is like you really start seeing the obvious traction. And it's like, wait, the consulting, that's a distraction. Quick, like you've seen the fit, let's invest, let's scale. And we went to Founder Group, Brad Feld's team, Ryan McIntyre, the guy that coded Excite at Home, is on our board, and did 10 million Series A. And then last summer, we did a Series B with DFJ Growth. And so Randy Glein led that and raised an additional 52.5. Wow. So we've only raised twice, and a lot of the scale wins we've been able to do on the team. I mean, this morning we're 176 people. Mm-hmm. Right, so you go from 30, you triple, do Series B, and then double. Because we kept our heads down, just building product independently for so long, we had such a good core team in place. So you don't have like some of those cultural weird parts that can happen in rapid scale. So mm-hmm. that's how we got started.
Great. And so what is your edge? Obviously you have Google with Google Maps, you have Waze, you have Apple, you have now Uber working on something for their business. I mean, why is your company so, why should it be so successful? What's going to be the edge competing against those others?
Yeah, so if you look at the mapping space, there are only 4 sets of global data mm-hmm. out there. You have TomTom, right, who used to make the devices. You have the company formerly known as Nokia here, that the German autos just bought at the beginning of this year. Google, who sourced their own, and then us with OpenStreetMap. So Apple is, so those are the 4 data sets. Good. You should also factor in Apple as a mapping company at this point, right? They're investing $1 billion a year, and it's obviously not just strategic for the mobile, but this car stuff seems pretty real, right? Yep. So they're buying data from TomTom, though, right now. They've started building cars to do their own sourcing, and then I think there's actually 5.5 companies. You got to count Uber. Like, if you're gonna, look, there are 2 reasons. You're coming out saying you're going to spend $500 million a year on your mapping play. And to not just should you be serious because that's a lot of money, the main team over there, they're amazing. Right? This is Brian McClendon, like the guy that built out Google Maps is now over at Uber. So I count him as a half, only because I haven't shipped yet. But and it's understandable why they're trying to invest so much. The comparative advantage, if you can control all the details, so being able to put your own data into the map, being able to show exactly where the entrance is, where the pickup is. I mean, how often do you get frustrated where the address part is not quite right? And if you look at Travis's longer play, you've got to get a level of accuracy here that robots can start handling. Like, who are you going to talk to, right? How are you going to call up and say, actually, no, come around the corner? So they're investing massively for the long haul. So to where we fit in on that, we almost describe ourselves as like a Lego company, right? We provide these building blocks to developers where they can pick exactly the functionality they want, whether that's like a look and feel, like Financial Times wants pink maps with their font, or Le Mans wants maps in French. Being able to control exactly the data and exactly the functionality that goes into your map to build a totally custom map, that's what's driving so many people. So you look at weather, right? So you go to weather.com or Weather Underground. All these maps are powered by us. Do a lot of work with IBM. But it's not just a map. The map's starting to fade into the background. It's understanding where you are. By the end of this year, anytime anybody sees the Weather Channel logo, I don't care whether it's in the back of a taxi or in an elevator, we're going to have told you where that location is, done that search, done that geocoding. Mm-hmm. So you start needing, location becomes so core to the app, whether you're looking at a map or not, that developers need that really granular flexibility. So that change and developer-led approach is very similar to how people started moving from a really good framework like PayPal to a more flexible API focus like Stripe, right? And so, like, honestly, people come to us as an API company. People think of us as a mapping company because our API output looks really pretty, but that's what keeps it easy for developers.
Okay. And keeping it real time, having real-time data, that's something that I saw you recently made an acquisition. Can you talk about that and how that fits into what you're doing?
Yeah, we just in the last month, we acquired the team over at Human. Basically, that turned your phone into Fitbit. And what's hard about that is being able to collect anonymized, aggregated data to make sure you have a lot of privacy and process that data into real time to then feed back to you context. That's hard, right? You're dealing with like billions of data points like per minute at that point. And this was a key team to join our existing what we call telemetry team. So here's how we work. We looked at Waze and we're like, this is brilliant. Like, this map with Waze is just smarter than anything we've seen. So what's the best way we could possibly collect data? What if we don't actually have an app? What if we just build an SDK? So now any developer that builds with us puts our SDK in, and they get beautiful maps. And what do we get back? Anonymized, aggregated latitude, longitude, timestamp, and elevation. That's it. So the developers are constantly getting the most updated map back for their users, where their users are. So the users love it. And we are getting road network data back. And we collect nothing else about the user, not even a temp ID. So it's, I tell you, I don't think we could have been doing any of this 3 years ago. The level of cloud processing that we're doing, you're going to see some very interesting presentations at reInvent in Vegas. All of our infrastructure is on Amazon. I mean, doing this globally, this is hard. I think that's another barrier to new mapping companies. Remember when Google Maps launched? It was the United States floating in a sea of blue. That was it. And bit by bit, you added more countries. When Apple launched, they didn't have that luxury. They had to go global instantly. That's brutal. That's painful. Like, here you are. You're one of the most powerful companies in the world with all the money in the world. You can buy the best data in the world. And you just get nailed walking it because it's so complicated, right? We have to be able to power this on a true global basis. That's brutal. And so being able to process not just a map globally, but the real-time data to know exactly what the road infrastructure looks like and the traffic, that, from an engineering perspective, that is an insane challenge. And the way we're using AWS in every single region around the world, multiple availability zones is that's cool. Like it's allowing us to make the play that we're making right now.
Yeah. Talk about autonomous vehicles and how, I mean, obviously, last month or so you've had pretty much a deal per day announced, and everybody from the big car manufacturers to Lyft, Uber, and everyone else kind of getting into that space.
Yeah.
And you obviously fit into that. So talk about that, and where is that on your focus list, and where do you see things going?
No, it really is like an article per day now, if not two. I mean, you're waking up, and if it's not, I mean, it's now mainstream. I mean, this morning you wake up, it's like GM against Tesla in the New York Times. Like it's like every single day the focus on this, or what Lyft and Uber are doing. Look, these cars, the sensors in these cars, they're brilliant, right? Whether it's radar, whether it's mobilized front-facing camera. In the future, there's going to be lower cost LiDAR to put on. And those sensors know exactly where that car is, what lane it's in, what's in front of it, what's next to it. But regardless of those sensors, that car has no idea where it's going, right? And no idea how to get there as fast, as safe as possible. The other side to that is the map, right? That's the road network. That's the real-time network that needs to come together. So we're focused on enabling these smart sensor-powered cars to know where they're going, know what the traffic is up ahead, know when to switch lanes. So we're only focused. You'll see some beautiful pictures on the internet from other people in the mapping space. They're showing these like crazy LiDAR clouds and talking about cars without steering wheels. That's cool. I'm really excited about like the next 10 years of level 2 and level 3 semi-autonomous. Like being able to have great lightweight trajectory maps so you can stay in your lane, anticipate when you should start exiting and changing lanes to get off the exit, know where a stoplight is so you can actually stop, because if there's not a car in front of you, that radar ain't going to do anything. So there's a ton of money to be made in the next couple years on the semi-autonomous side, and that's where we're doing all of our investment on the mapping space.
And just a side question of that, do you think it's going to be, I mean, Uber obviously has its own mapping technology, and then you have other companies that use third-party mapping technology. Is that going to play a big role, and is that going to be decided, kind of make the decision who's going to win that space? How do you see that?
So it's going to play a big role certainly in the car space. I mean, the car companies, they're in a spot, right? So you got on one end of the spectrum, you've got TomTom in here, that beautiful data quality. Right? These guys have been making data forever. But the reason none of us have had a positive in-car navigation experience and put our phone on regardless of how expensive that car is because they just don't get the software side. Well, who set our expectations on the software? Google and Apple. So here you go. The car companies are like, well, I can't make anything good and haven't been able to for 5 years with my traditional phone. Do I go over to Google and Apple? I mean, it's not like Google and Apple care about Detroit maintaining the relationship with the driver, right? They're going to own that customer experience. If that happens to the automakers, then they're just bending metal. So what we want to do is I want to take that exact same approach we did with mobile devs, to give you a tool set, to give you that Photoshop, to let you put your own data, let you control that, let you own the data you collect back out. I want to give that to Detroit so you can have a mobile-like experience in your car and own that relationship. And in the space, nobody else is really focused on that, nor should Google and Apple. I mean, they own what they own, and they're about to be major competitors in this space with the car companies. So it's a crazy time in the space. We're incredibly fortunate to be where we are right now. And I mean the uptick's been like yesterday. I mean, yesterday alone we collected over 100 million miles of data. To put that in perspective, I mean that's, if you look at Waze's MAUs when they got bought, that's 3 times more data. Like what you can do with this stuff, like using a live sensor network and then feeding that back in to then power the cars in a look and feel that the car companies own and can have that relationship with the driver, that's cool. So that's where a lot of focus is, and that's why we opened up in Detroit last week, partnering with Techstars, and you're going to see a lot more push on that side.
Great. So last question, where do you see yourself in 5 years with Mapbox?
In a lot more things, not just cars, not just phones, but you're going to see some incredible announcements in the drone space. You're going to see some incredible announcements on the chip side, front-facing camera side. I mean, stuff that we used to laugh about, like front-facing cameras, like the Russians, when you see the meteor hit. This is stuff that's going to go mainstream, and you're going to need maps as part of it. But most importantly, this video game stuff is awesome. And keep an eye on Unity, that framework, being able to have location be part of that. Everything's changing in the game space. So it's nice to be such a low-level ball bearing in this play.
Great. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Hey, thank you. It's great.